Week 3 already. This week we're going to talk about hunger. What does food mean to you? How many activities involve food? Is it social or is it sustenance? Does food equate to events, family and friends, outings, church, cookouts, picnics, or is it love? The USDA decided that hunger was too vague a word. Hunger meaning the uneasy or painful sensation caused by lack of food. So they divided this a little bit and decided it was no longer hunger, it was food secure, food insecure, or food insufficient. Food secure means the entire population has access to enough food for an active and healthy lifestyle. If you are food insecure, it is limited or uncertain availability of nutritious food obtained by socially acceptable means. Food insufficiency is restricted household stores of food or insufficient food intake. Dividing it a little further, they decided to go food insecure without hunger, food insecure with moderate hunger, food insecure with severe hunger, or food insecure with hunger among children. The definition added that food insecurity was a household level condition, while hunger was an individual or personal condition. Who are the hungry? In 2005, 35 million people, this is the United States, lived in food insecure households, including 12.4 million children, or nearly 17% of all children in the United States. Likely the numbers are greater now. Food insecurity and hunger affects millions of people and can include poor quality diets, inadequate nutrient intake, developmental and psychosocial problems in children, obesity, depression, and chronic illness among adults. Minorities are overrepresented among the hungry. Ironically, many of the food insecure are obese, produced by the consumption of cheap food and compensating by overeating when food is available. It's much easier to go to McDonald's and buy a hamburger for $1 than it is to go to Kroger and buy vegetables. Entitlement programs connected with hunger. Food stamps, the biggest one. Food stamps is no longer food stamps. It is now the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. Persons can purchase food or seeds, but not prepared or hot meals with food stamps. In 2005, there was a monthly average of 25.7 million people receiving this assistance, and once again, it is likely higher now. Food stamps do make a significant nutritional difference for low-income families. The USDA reported that increased nutrients in home food supplies by an average of 30%. For every $1 increase in food stamp benefits, a household's nutrient consumption increases 3 to 7 times over the same dollar spent out of cash. The USDA nationwide food consumption survey found that low-income households tend to buy lower-priced foods in search of bargains and utilize their food dollars effectively. Food stamps offer low-income families greater financial resources with which to purchase foods that are appropriate for their meals. The nutritional health of the family is increased. However, food stamp budgets do not provide enough resources to meet the requirements for the entire month. That shortage, of course, can challenge a family's food security. Frequently, parents and senior citizens must make difficult choices. For example, many seniors must decide to use their income for medication rather than food. Young parents must strictly enforce portion control during meals and forego their own meals in favor of their children. Across the country, numerous issues affect access to food stamps, and it is a state-by-state thing. These issues include poor customer service, inadequate training of food stamp office staff, and language barriers. There is also a rampant urban myth that needs to be dispelled regarding how many benefits for which people are eligible. In the Johnson City area, the agencies are connected to something called an HMIS system, and that is a computer program that if you go to one agency to get assistance and then immediately go down the street to another agency to get assistance, that would show up on the computer and you would be denied at the second agency. Brief history, repeat of some of the stuff that we talked about before. Food stamps, of course, originated during the New Deal years of the Roosevelt administration. Milo Perkins, who was then Secretary of Agriculture in 1939, said, "We got a picture of a gorge with farm surplus on one cliff and undernourished city folk with outstretched hands on the other. We set out to find a practical way to build a bridge across that chasm." The program was designed to provide support to farmers by helping to distribute unmarketable farm surplus as well as to feed the poor during an unprecedented period of unemployment. The program was halted at the end of the Depression. The food stamp program was reinstated in the early 1960s when Congress approved the Food Stamp Act in 1964. It was the onset of the War of Poverty waged by Lyndon B. Johnson. There, of course, is a link to that if you want to look at it. The food stamp issue was replaced a few years ago by something called an EBT or EBIT card. In 1960, the Nixon administration forged a bipartisan agreement to make food stamps available at no charge to families with incomes below the poverty level and modestly to other low-income families. During the Reagan years, food stamps were restricted to poverty-level families, and recent changes in federal and state public benefit programs have brought major changes to food stamps. More than 50% of the welfare reform savings of 1996 to 1997 came from the food stamp program, cutting both benefit levels and eligibility standards. The current program distributes electric benefit transfer EBIT cards that resemble ATM cards. A family's benefit amount is electronically entered into their food stamp account, and purchases are deducted electronically at participating grocery stores. If you're interested, you can go to the first website below and learn more about the history of food stamps. I would like for you to look at the article that is second link. A couple of weeks ago on NBC News with Brian Williams, he did a report on people waiting in the Walmart parking lot the night before the EBIT cards were charged at midnight, waiting to go buy food, and it's quite an interesting little story. Who's eligible for SNAP benefits? Food stamp recipients must apply for these benefits. Once clients have completed a food stamp application and deemed eligible, they should receive the EBIT card within 30 days. The amount of the food stamp benefit depends on the client's resources, family size, and ages. There's a couple of websites here I would very much like for you to look at. The first is the eligibility calculator for SNAP benefits, and the second is the application. As I was talking earlier in the week about the applications that you have to fill out, just look this over and see if someone who was ill-informed or undereducated was capable of filling out the application. This is the maximum monthly allotment based on persons in the household between October 2011 and September 2012, so this is current. Some food for thought. These are a series of questions here that you might want to discuss in the discussion board. Hunger is hard to measure, so we often use some kind of indirect assessment or proxy to measure hunger. You might say the area's median household income. What percentage of children in local schools receive free or reduced lunch? What percent of the elderly receive subsidized Meals on Wheels? What percent of income do residents pay for rent? How many people receive groceries from local food pantries? Is there a local soup kitchen or community kitchen? How many local people receive food stamps? What is the rate of low birth weight babies in the community? And does the community's hospital track rates of diet-related illness or disease? Some of the resources that can improve hunger in a neighborhood might be a community garden. If you don't know, a community garden is a very cool thing. I've started quite a few of them with my service learning students. But you go into an area, you plant stuff in the ground, and anyone within the community who wants to come work in the garden can take away food. Do senior centers serve breakfast and lunch to their guests? Are there food cooperatives or buying clubs? There used to be one on campus. I don't know if it's here anymore, but you would pay like $25 a month, and you would get a very nice box of food for that. And because there were so many people in the cooperative, it became much less expensive, and we were getting things like steak and really, really nice food. Do local grocery stores and restaurants donate non-marketed food to food banks? Yes, they do. Locally, a lot of that goes to Second Harvest Food Bank out in Gray, and they have a truck now that goes around to restaurants at the end of the shift and pick up the leftovers. It's amazing how much food is wasted and thrown away by restaurants and grocery stores that are still perfectly good food. What anti-hunger organizations operate in the community? Do local schools promote the free meal program to parents and students? And is there an organization that serves as a summer meal site for children? It's hard for children who get most of their food at school, and the majority of the poor do that, of course. It's hard for them to eat on weekends and holidays, and particularly in the summer. Many of the summer programs for children that are open do offer them. Local agriculture is another factor because communities need a sustainable food supply to be food secure over time. What is the state of local farming? Has a high percentage of farmers in the state gone out of business? Has there been farmland loss? I can tell you that this is very true for this area. A lot of small farms have disappeared. People have come in primarily from other areas and found this to be a lovely and pastoral place, and have bought up the small farms and put in housing developments and communities of their own. And small farmers are really almost obsolete. If you go out west, even if you fly over like the Midwest, you can look down at the ground and it looks something like a giant twister board, and those are watering devices that make large circles in the crops. And you'll see a lot of places where cows are put into small stalls and milked automatically, and it's just, big business now. What is the median age of farmers? Are young people attracted to farming and agriculture as a career? Do high schools, technical colleges, and universities provide agriculture classes, majors, or training? I know the University of Tennessee still has an agricultural program. What foods are grown regionally, and do residents support local farmers? There are farmers markets in almost most of the communities in this area, I know. The produce tends to be a little more expensive than it is at the grocery store, but you know it's fresh, and you know that money is going back into the community. Government policies at all levels impact communities' food security. They make rules on land use, on transportation, on community development, and environmental policies, and many of those act as barriers to enhance communities' food security. Statewide, what kind of support does the Department of Education give to school meal programs? What is the state's policy on access to food stamps for young families, legal immigrants, and the elderly? Nationally, how do representatives in Congress and senators vote on issues which affect agriculture and hunger? And do they understand the level of food security in their own district? What resources should be available to provide financial or income support assistance? How should these sources of support determine eligibility and the urgency of any one family's circumstances? What role, if any, should employers play in assuring the food security and self-sufficiency of their workers? That's a good question. What role, if any, should workers play in acquiring a living wage? What costs should be measured to determine a living wage in your local community? The next few slides feature a questionnaire used in the Cornell-Ratimer study of national hunger. Review the study, then consider the questions that follow it. You can take the study if you like. This is the determination of the outcome of the answers. Questions to consider about the study. Do you think the definitions of food security on the rating sheet are accurate? Which questions could you answer immediately and which ones might have taken some thought? If someone worries about whether or not they can afford to buy enough food, are they food insecure, poor planners, or both? What's your opinion? How might a lack of food variety affect a child's health? I've put a link in here to a Tufts University study that answers that question if you'd like to look at it. What remedies might be suggested to assist a household that is food insecure? Some other programs related to hunger, of course, the National School Lunch Program. More than 29 million children are currently on that program, which must meet federal dietary guidelines. That is extremely flexible, I think, because in the last month or so, the federal government has decided that pizza is a vegetable because it contains tomato sauce. Of course, that technically makes it a fruit, but still, WIC gives block grants for supplemental food, nutrition, education, healthcare screening to low-income, pregnant, breastfeeding, and postpartum mothers. 8 million recipients receive $38 a month, which, as you know, is not much. This is not an entitlement program. It's based on whether there's enough money to go around. Other programs include Indian reservations and programs for the elderly, local food pantries, those kinds of things. When they interviewed people about food pantries, 4 million people said that they got food from the food pantries, but 25% reported no pantry available in their area, and 20% did not even know there was one. A study conducted in 2010 by Feeding America, which is the sort of the umbrella organization now for all the national food banks, called Hunger in America, reported that 36% of the households served by national food banks included at least one working adult. 66% were below the federal poverty level with little access to transportation. The average monthly income was $860. Of course, there was rampant child hunger. Millions were food insecure. 18 million on the free or reduced lunch, and with no way of getting food on evenings, weekends, and vacations, as I said before. Please watch the following YouTube videos. They're both rather short and of some interest. And if you are interested in education or interested in becoming an educator or merely facilitating a group interested in the topic of hunger, you can look over the games section under content. These are things that you could use in a fairly large group of people. If you're interested in making a change about hunger, there are some things that you could do. You can encourage your colleagues at work or your friends or neighbors to get involved. You can donate fresh produce from your own garden if you have one. You can volunteer for Meals on Wheels, a local soup kitchen or food pantry. You can gather information about public programs which provide food. Stay informed. Write a letter to your legislators. Learn about the root causes of hunger. Organize a food drive and encourage healthy, high-protein donations. Organize a yard sale and donate the proceeds. In smaller, younger classrooms, kind of cute, you can hold a peanut butter and jelly drive and then donate that to the local food pantry.